Hi, it's Dre Griggs with Obsidian Wisdom. On this Wisdom Wednesday, we'll be discussing the proverb, "The wealth which enslaves the owner isn't wealth." Most entrepreneurs and families worry about money, so we created the Wisdomites framework to help you eradicate financial stress, generate a passive income, and build a prosperous retirement strategy. When it comes to building wealth, there are lots of ways to go about doing it. Now, I love this proverb because one of the things that I discuss with every client is the idea of freedom. I believe that freedom is you having your time back. And by time, that could be spending time with your family. That could be spending time choosing a certain career. That could be time traveling or building a hobby, pursuing a passion. The time really could be anything. I believe it is honestly your most valuable asset because it's the only one that you can't replace. And we don't have as much time as we think we have. If you really think about it, right, the average person lives, I believe it's like 87 years is what the average person lives in the U.S. And you have a decent number of those where you're like a kid and you're going to school and you're trying to figure things out. And then you have a decent amount where you're able to start making decisions for yourself, start living a life. And then you are trying to navigate and you keep learning things. And as a result, maybe every 5 years, you're like, man, I wish I knew then what I know now. I would have made completely different decisions. And I would have had more time. It would have been more advantageous for me. When it comes to building wealth, most of us, we start off where we're saying, okay, society has taught us, you go to school, you get good grades, you go to college, you get good grades, you get a good job, and then you start making your salary. And then as you're making your salary, you'll buy a house, buy a car, maybe take some trips, maybe even get married, start a family. And then somewhere along the way, you start realizing the lifestyle I have is tied directly to the money that I generate by working every day. And if you love what you're doing and you'd be doing it for free, then that's not really a concern for you. But for a lot of us, we end up making changes in our passions as we get older, where we're like, you know what, this doesn't really interest me anymore. And then that's where the problem is. Even though you have a certain amount of wealth and a certain lifestyle and things are going pretty good on one end, you don't have the ability to make a change in your career, in your lifestyle, because everything that you have is tied to the income that you generate from that particular job. So you are now faced with a decision where you're like, okay, let's say you had a 6-figure job, things are going great and make like $200,000 a year, but you want to be able to have more time to spend with your family. And you currently have to work like 80 hours a week or something of that nature. The only way that you can spend more time with your family is you would have to probably downsize in a lot of different avenues, where you're going to have to downsize the house and maybe some of the lifestyle and the way you spend and things like that. And as a result, it becomes very difficult for us to make that transition from where we are to where we believe we want to be. And to me, that's not wealth, right? That's not wealth because the lifestyle and the money that we have is enslaving us in the way we have to maintain a certain career and a commitment, a certain income where we can't make the changes that we want to make as freely as we want to make them. We may want to be able to move to a different city or a different state or a different country. You may want to go back to school and pay for some classes. There are lots of things that you may want to make changes on, but based on the income that you have being tied to a certain career and a job, a certain path, you don't really have the ability to make those changes readily. And so this really could be true in that literal sense, but it also can be true more in like your personal sense, where there are some of us where we end up having a career and we worked our way up to the point that maybe we just are like, okay, I'm on the executive board, the CEOs go to me, but I sort of have to maintain a certain agreement with them. I have to do certain things to be able to maintain my position. I have to position myself politically, right, in a company. And that may require me being less than my full authentic self, which is totally fine. You're just playing the game early on, but at some point it starts eating away at you a little bit. Because the truth is, if you're being less than your authentic self, more times than not, that means you're attracting people who are being their authentic self that matches your less than authentic self, which puts you in like a little mini prison where you're surrounded by people who act in a completely way that's aligned with the way that you're portraying yourself, but it's not aligned with who you truly are on the inside. And so then you end up being enslaved to that, I say, characterization of yourself, where you're like, okay, I have to be this person, act a certain way, I have to do these certain things to play the political game. And as a result, I'm not happy. I'm miserable, just short of miserable. Again, your lifestyle, your income, everything is tied to the certain way that you portray yourself with the certain relationships that you have. And now you're stuck in that hamster wheel. So wealth would be, I would say, number one, wealth would be tied to my ability to have freedom in my life. That if you have freedom, then you truly have wealth. And that freedom is just truly tied to your flexibility and ability to make changes in your life as you see fit. Now, I'm not saying that you should be like fickle and just completely make changes all the time. I'm not saying that, but I am saying that over time, your values will change. Whether or not you started where you were working 100 hours a week, you didn't have any kids, you weren't married, and your job was your life, and that served you very well early on. Well, then maybe 10, 20 years into your career, you worked your way up, but along the way, you got married and had kids. So some of your priorities have shifted. Or maybe you're super passionate about a cause that you believe in, where you want to help an underserved community, or you want to end hunger or provide clean water, things like that. And some of these nonprofits don't pay the same amount of money that you would get in the private sector. But because of your lifestyle, you can't just go into the nonprofit sector. So you end up having to maintain the certain lifestyle that you have. I'm talking about things like this, where your true values and your core values have shifted in the sense that there are things that you want to focus on more than your career at this time. And you should just have that flexibility. Now, if you don't need it, that's fine, right? God bless you. However, your time is what's most important. I'm not telling you how to spend your time. I'm just simply telling you that you should have the ability to choose how you spend your time. And that's what this proverb is teaching us. So that is why passive income is very important. It's the idea that the money that I have is going to generate more money for me. And then the talents and the ideas and the vision that I have is also going to be some work on the front end, but then I can put some systems in place where that work generates me an income. So now I have, 20% of my income, 50% of my income, 100% of my income coming in passively, where now it's not, where my wealth is completely tied to my freedom. It may or may not be more than what you previously were making, but you have complete freedom in your life, which is priceless. Because ultimately, wealth is going to be your ability to have your time, choose how you spend it, and the way that you want to spend it, with who you want to spend it with, where you're not stressing about your finances, where you're not worried about things, and you know that you can work as long as you want or stop working when you want. You know that you can continue in the career that you're in, or you can find a simpler career where maybe you don't feel as stressed anymore. Freedom is your ability to make those choices in the moment that work best for you, your family, and your needs. If you have additional questions about retirement planning, I invite you to check out my free retirement plan that works video training at obsidianwisdom.com/training. In it, I give you the entire wisdometric framework that I use with my clients to help them eradicate financial stress, generate a passive income, and build a prosperous retirement strategy. Until next time, Wisdomites, remember, wisdom is asking the right questions to allow yourself to get the right answers. Keep asking those questions and you will keep getting those answers. Continued blessings.